Hello, I'm Lee Carroll.
With that being said, let's do a short meditation to prepare ourselves to receive the message from Kryon. And it's as simple as this. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And focus on the area of your heart. Your heart has emotional intelligence. And your heart knows what you wish to do, which is to relax, find the center of your being. The center of your being is always in a state of peace. Being peace, tranquil, and calm is your natural state of being. And this meditation is to remind you of that natural state of being that is innately yours. And as we connect with our center, we feel the eternal peace because it's connected with our eternal soul. And in gratitude and love, let us now continue to receive the messages from the loving entourage of Kryon that is coming through the veil in a third language being delivered to you.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. Each time that my partner brings me to this place, in this, which is a place where many observe, it's different. This is a healing program. And yet it's also a platform to discuss so much that is magnificent about the human being. And so you're going to hear a various array, you might say, of subjects, but they're all going to center on you. We've spoken about the times that you're in. And that will play into this channel a little bit. Because you wonder, is all of this random? This being your existence here, the systems that put you here, past lives, if you believe that? And coming to this planet at this time to experience this, there are many who would say, well, it's too bad I had to be this time, without understanding. This is an appointment you made. You wouldn't have had it any other way. It brings up the whole question of how much control you have over what happens to you. And I don't mean here, because we have discussed that many times, dear ones. We've discussed a reality that you have that is indeed one that you choose. One that you direct. We have told you many, many times that how your consciousness sees the world is how the world becomes for you. This is very difficult for many who say, I see. You mean that I'm not going to step out and have the chance of being run over by a truck like everyone else? And the answer is, you're right, you won't, because your consciousness won't put you in that situation. We have discussed that very thing. Can consciousness field those kinds of issues? And the answer is yes. And we say field those kinds of issues because you are dealing with something called the field. Fielding something means to work with it. You work with the reality so you be in the right place at the right time. Your consciousness, if it's high enough, will direct you there. This is you controlling your own reality, but it's far, far greater than that. That's while you're here. Are there systems, you might ask, that would put you in other places where you have a say about esoteric things? Now, what would those things be, you might ask? And the answer is everything. How esoteric would you like to get? Well, seeing as though you're listening to channeling, you're already there. The first belief systems on this planet, long time ago, started understanding a staple of existence for you and your soul. And that is that you come and go and come and go and come and go. The soul that you have is eternal, but many of your belief systems today that are supposed to be modern have decided that that soul is somehow linear. It shows up when you're born, and it goes somewhere else when you die, and it goes from A to B, and that's it. Not understanding that that soul of yours has no beginning. It has no end. Because you see, the soul is part of that which is the creative source. It's part of God. So in that there is a system, and that system is past lives and future lives. The system is, if you wish to call it, reincarnation, where your soul reincarnates over and over again. This was the intuition of the first systems on the planet, and even this day, right now, more believe in that system than not. So it's not something that belongs to a few. But let's ask the question, if you believe in these things, what is the system? And in that, how much do you have to say about it? Now, if you buy into what many tell you, you don't have anything to do with it. It's like the king on high directs it. And that, dear one, is linear. It comes from you in a human family. That's what your father would do, or a king would do. That's what government would do. And that is often how you see God. That's not how it works at all. You've heard of collective consciousness. It's more than that. When you're on the other side of the veil, dear ones, you are connected to all that is. Are you understanding that? You may understand the verbiage, but you can't really truly understand it, because that is a connection that is not for you here. You are part of all that is when you're not here. And therefore, there is no committee meeting to decide if you're coming back, when you're coming back, what gender you will be, what you're going to do, who you'll be with, what culture you'll be in, all of these things. There's no committee to decide that. There's no instructions that come down in a book to help you decide that. I've described this many times to you, and yet I want to tell you again. This is more magnificent than you think. It's you, with that which is all the other entities, making instant decisions. If you even want to call them decisions, it's a knowingness of how you will come back, who you will be. We've told you many times that the system of reincarnation is one that honors the human. And that means you often come back in the same culture and the same language, even often the same gender, for many years before there's ever a change. This honors you, for that means that you awaken with an akash that you recognize. The language is recognizable. The culture is recognizable. And as you grow up with certain parents, You're having the same experiences you've had over and over, and it's comfortable, and you fall into a pattern. The entire reason for reincarnation is learning. You might say it is a school of consciousness that creates an old soul. And with many, many lifetimes, no matter what you've done, no matter where you've been, what happens at the end of that is maturity. And with free choice, you either awaken or not to a grander truth. Welcome to the grander truth. But I want to tell you more about what's happening there. You're part of it there. I want you to understand just how much is involved in this that you have something to say about. Oh, I know what you're going to tell me, Kryon. You're going to tell me that I selected my parents, and you're going to tell me that I selected all the things that I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you, Kryon, there is no way I would have chosen those people. You see, I've been here before, and I've heard you, human being, because you don't understand. You don't understand the system. The system is not about personalities. It's about energy and love and compassion and learning. You will stand there at the wind of birth, seemingly with millions of other souls making decisions at the same time, and you will look and see and understand you're going to come down to this planet and be born, perhaps, of difficult parents, in dysfunctional families. And the entire reason is because you're going to be the only old soul. And as you start to grow up, you'll have an awakening of knowingness, and they will have not a clue. You understand where this is going. You become their teacher. How do you like it so far? This is what many of you have chosen, and you have to do this, because that is the compassionate way of God. When I say you have to do it, I mean there is no other choice. That is the way of it. That is the road of compassion. That's the road of understanding and maturity. And you will stand there and say, what is the most difficult place? Because there is light needed in this family. I want to come over here and do this and that. And then at the same time you'll say, and I want to continue being a musician. I want to continue with my artistics. I want to continue to think a certain way. All of that is honored, have you noticed? And musicians become musicians. So the creative parts of you, those blessed, beautiful parts, can continue, even in dysfunctional families. This is more complex than you think. There's this idea that the more lifetimes you're in, the more you graduate, and the nicer life you're going to have. So the more lifetimes you live, the more comfortable you'll be lifetime after lifetime. Let me give you a reality check. The more mature you are and the more lifetimes you have under your belt, the more you can do for the planet when it needs you, especially in dysfunctional places like families who don't know anything about that creative, beautiful source, and you do. I'm talking to so many of you who become what we have called the black sheep of the family. You're not welcome home. But let me tell you something. You have had a huge influence. You've made them think about things. You've made perhaps changes in their Akashic record. Did you know that's possible? You are interfacing with everyone here in a multidimensional, grander way than you think. You're planting seeds everywhere you go. What they do next, the lifetimes they live next, will have you in their Akash as a remembered teacher with things they can never forget. Things you told them that they may disagree with, but then they can see who you are. We've told you before, no matter who says what to you, show them kindness. No matter what names you are called, show them understanding and kindness. No matter what they do because they don't agree with you, even perhaps to disowning you or telling you to go away and not come back, I want you to see what they are going through with their dysfunction because they don't have the love that you do. And treat that accordingly because you have the compassion and the love to look at them and say, no matter what you say or what you do, I love you. That will change them. It always does. It always does. Oh, you have so much influence on who you are today by appointment on this earth to be right here going through this, old soul. And so it is. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
Use that information to move into a meditation and a channel from Kryon. So I invite you to close your eyes, place your hand on your heart, and in this moment, I invite you to feel the energy of the many thousands of souls that are tuning in, whether it's in the now or in the future, which in the future becomes their now. And so joining us are thousands of beautiful souls, and I want you to connect heart to heart with each person coming into this moment. And with our collective consciousness, let us send a wave of love and compassion to those on the planet in this moment who are going through grief. There are many who have been losing loved ones that have had their end of days on earth, and they are in a moment of grief. And while we can't take that grief away immediately, we can send love and compassion out to those individuals. And allow them to feel our support. And allow us to visualize them, perhaps not in a month or not quite a year, but allow them to be softened in their reaction. And that they can smile when they think of that loved person, knowing that we are in a circle of life and we don't truly die. We simply change energy forms. And that loved one that they have lost is now part of their soul group, guiding them, assisting them as they continue to walk on this planet. And with that connection and thought, allow your hands to relax. Take a deep breath. And we welcome the message from Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Each time we come before you in this way, I hope you understand the love, the benevolence, the beauty. As we sit at your feet and give you the wisdom that is here. This planet is changing greatly. You may be aware of it. Some of you are seeing things that are fearful or appear fearful because of the shift, of the change, not understanding that some of that change may be that which will upset the normal. And it's the normal, perhaps, that is not going to return. A normal of low consciousness that is starting to move away from humanity as you know it. This is the first of the month channel. That is to say, the first one of the month. All 4 of these channels will be available and are available for free. And so I then am free to give you a 4-piece channel, and I do it yet again. Part 1 of a subject. And this subject truly is the elephant under the table, as some of you would say. Those of you who are watching this program, who have tuned into this program because you want to watch it, have something all in common, various degrees of something in common, and that is you're starting to ask questions. And the questions you are asking is, have I missed something? Is there something perhaps bigger than I was told? Specifically, when it comes to that which is God, the creative source, spirituality, the energy on the planet, that some are saying is moving to a place it never was before, and they'd be right. The elephant under the table is that you're different. I'm going to call it consciousness shift. Some have called it awakening. I will say that it is humans' new frontier. Not just that which is awakening, but a perception shift of the planet that is gradually starting to happen. And it refers not just to spiritual things. It actually relates to the way you think. Human consciousness is starting to vibrate higher. And the first thing that takes place, dear ones, the first thing is those who start to be more aware of what they were not aware of before. Let's call it, instead of an awakening, let's call it a greater awareness. So that is the new frontier. Greater awareness, specifically about that which is spirit, about your own spirituality. And that's why you're here. It's the elephant under the table because it has changed your life. Sometimes it has made it more difficult in your life. Some of you have lost friends and family members because of it. So we're going to discuss it. The attributes, then, of this awareness shift. That's the subject. The first of these 4 is simply going to be looking around. I have given many parables, many examples, many metaphors of what some of you have experienced that actually got you in trouble. And I would say in trouble, that is to say, when you go against the norm, there are those who say, how could you? You were trained in this, you learned this, this is your staple, this is the way it works, and you have varied from that. Therefore, we're not going to be with you anymore. Perhaps that's why you're here listening to a program like this. You're among friends and good company. When I first started with my partner and started channeling on this planet, one of the first parables I gave was about a man named Woe. I told you he wasn't really a man or a woman. He was a woe man, but we call him a man. We call him a he because it's easy. And it had to do with a disturbance in the corner. We called it woe in the room of lesson. And the disturbance in the corner is a metaphor for him being in a room. And the room was his life. But there was a corner that always vibrated a little strangely. And those who were in the room with him said, yes, this is life. There'll always be things that you can look at or not look at, and there'll always be odd things. Don't look at it because it'll capture you, or it's not good for you. And in this parable, woe eventually looked, and it was like a door that he cracked open, and there was light there. There was other things there he didn't understand, and it changed his life. It was benevolent. It was loving. That was the first time we gave that kind of a parable, indicating that if you want to look, you might find a greater truth than you've been told. We gave a parable which became a book, The Journey Home. And in that, there was an average man, Michael Thomas, who had a near-death experience, and he came back with instructions from an angel. The angel told him to move into his city until he came to a park and sit there and wait, and he did. And finally, he thought he saw something in the hedge, like an opening or perhaps an anomaly. And he went to the hedge, and he saw that it was indeed an opening, a doorway, if you want to say that. And then he had a decision. He said, am I imagining it or not? Has somebody made this happen to me or not? Am I being tricked or not? And he tried to unsee that, and he couldn't. Every time he looked at the hedge, he saw the doorway, every single time. Eventually, dear ones, he went through that, and the adventure began. And he learned about things which were bigger than he was told. But the point is this, that when you start looking and something occurs, you cannot then delete that. Your conscious, your brain captures something critical, an opening perhaps, an awareness perhaps. Some have called it even an awakenings of what is it? And you're not frightened of it because you know that what it is that you have seen or felt is okay. It's safe, and you would like to know more about it. There are so many who have called these channelings a trick, that somehow you are brainwashed and you're tricked into something, and then you're captured forever. Dear ones, what if you went from darkness to light and you like the light better? Is that a trick? I'll tell you something that you should hear, and you should need to know perhaps, and that is that all of you have the ability to look. And that if you choose to look, dear ones, that's like an outstretched hand to all of us to say, look at that. He's looking, she's looking. Let's give them something to see. That's what happened to my partner. That's what happened to many of you. You saw a greater truth. You went to look further at it, and it became that which is now your life because it saved some of you. We know who's watching. It became something that has extended your life. We know who's watching. What if God is bigger than you were told? What if God is not even representative of that word itself? A word that sometimes means anger and judgment and dysfunction like the Greeks had. That creative source which made you is provable all over the world. If you don't believe in that which is God, what if you erase the whole idea of a Father in the sky, instead have a benevolent source that you are part of, that has a grander scheme than anything anyone has told you? Let me close with this until the next section. There are physicians around this planet who are very, very good at something, and that is saving lives. And they spend their time often in the operating rooms, emergency cases mostly, those who are dying from accidents mostly, trying to save their lives and bring them back because it's not time yet in our way of thinking, in your way of thinking. Perhaps they come in and there's been an accident and their heart stops. And for whatever reason it is, and it can be a multitude of reasons and so many accidents, They're resuscitated then. And that physician is good at this, at saving people and bringing them back, and they've seen it over and over and over, where someone would be clinically dead for a number, perhaps, of moments or minutes or whatever. Over and over. You've seen this. You know this. And the thing that they will tell you over and over, ask them. Some of them have written books on it, is this. A person comes back from that near-death experience, and the first thing they want to know when they recover and look at the doctor is this: why did you bring me back? You see, they saw something. The door started to open, and the light shone, and they felt the love and the benevolence. They felt safe and beautiful. Oh, my. Can you imagine such a thing? Even though the family was back there on the planet and all that, and all they wanted to do was stay. And it wasn't a trick of the mind, as some biologists will tell you. That's real. And then they come back into a planet where they have to work with consciousnesses, lows and highs and all this, and they're disappointed. So many. And then they philosophize about it, and some become authors and teachers and healers themselves, and often the near-death experience has opened them to this. They saw the truth, and they want to show it to you without you having to go through what they did. And that's why you sit and listen to them. And we've had them. So many times we, meaning that which is the channeling, we've had them to give to you. We've had them present on programs like this. We've tried to show you there is more. There is an awareness starting to happen, and you can't unsee it, dear ones. And in the next section, when we come back, when we channel next week, we will continue. And the continuation will be what happens when you see the truth in all of its glory, and no one else does. I think it matches so many of those right now who are listening. Are you interested? This is you. This is about the awakening awareness process on the planet. Not just you, but so many around you. I'll be back. And so it is. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. I want to give you some information today about something that all of you have and that's beginning to change. Through all of the years of the information, of the channeling, of talking about what is coming and how it will affect you, what you can do, the good news of it all, it continues. We have discussed with you that which is your innate. And there are some in the room or listening who can't really identify what the word really means. What is innate? I think it stemmed from the idea that innately you ought to be able to do certain things, but you can't. So innate has been the name given for your smart body. So the idea is that there is you, and then there is the you within you, which is smarter than you are. It's called innate, and you access it through many processes through the years. One, which is most popular, is kinesiology, called muscle testing. There are others which literally interview the innate. Now, the innate, the smart body, we have told you, is connected to things within you and outside you that are grand.
It is not a brain function at all, and yet the brain must be involved, as it always is. But it involves the pineal. It involves the heart, the triad. The innate is in contact more than you are with your higher self and your Akashic record. That's what makes the innate so smart. You might say it's the instinct that humans don't have that animals do. That is innate. The things that innate is responsible for is grand and great, and the list would surprise you. And that is why there is so much involved today with those and processes to get in touch with innate. The thought that inside you is a smart body that knows that which you don't. Imagine having to ask your body, what are you allergic to? Shouldn't you know that? So you muscle test to find out. That is how far removed you are at this point, human being, from being able to discuss back and forth with the innate. And if you could, what would be the language that you would have from you to the smart body? Let us say you could open a door to it. What would be the language? What would it feel like? I will tell you, dear ones, it is called intuition. Let me paint a picture for you. The child is sitting there and is about to touch the stove. Isn't it interesting that the child even wants to touch the stove? The child is on the precipice of a cliff and is about to walk off until it's grabbed by the adult. An animal would never do that. An animal would know about heights and gravity, and it comes with the territory of life with an animal. An animal would not touch a hot stove, even if it didn't know it was a stove. It senses the heat, it tells them to stay away, but not the human baby. It comes in completely clueless of some of the things that innate would give it if it was in touch with it. So the child touches the stove. There's a small burn on the finger. And inside the child's brain, there is activity that is forever. Synapse, neurons, complex growth that occurs that will etch into the child's brain, don't touch a stove. And it's going to be there all its life. That's profound if you think about it. One action of burning your finger will last forever in your lifetime. Then the child passes on, comes back, and wants to touch the stove. There is a disconnect, dear ones, in the human being of what is called instinct in the animal world. You are not receiving the things that you learned in the past life. This is one of the arguments that science would use for the non-existence of past lives. If you had a past life, you should know better, they would say. What they're not understanding at this point is that in the old energy, the human being is not fully functional. We've told you this before. You're operating at approximately 35%. It's starting to grow. But on a scale of 1 to 100, you're only a third of the way there. When it comes to wisdom and balance, intelligence, intellect, There are intellectuals who will argue, and they will say, we can think of anything. I am telling you, no, you can't. You don't know what you don't know. An intellectual will hit the ceiling with what it can think about until this planet starts to grow up. The consciousness is starting to shift and change, and one of the things you're going to look forward to, dear ones, we have talked about before, Akashic remembrance. But more than that, let's talk about how innate is going to be inherited through your Akash. I'm talking about two segments now. One is new children being born on the planet, and the other is what old souls can do on the planet right now if they get out of their box of belief that says they can't. Akashic inheritance, we've used the words before, Akashic remembrance, but you should know the one thing that starts to happen with children, with you, all of you listening, as you start to evolve on this planet, as you are, you're going to receive more intuition. In other words, that language to the innate is going to increase. The smart body is going to start releasing information. The child will not touch the stove. The child will not go near the edge of the cliff. This is important because you're going to start seeing it and you're going to wonder how they knew. I want to take you on a journey. It is the human being today represented, as we often have metaphorically, by a house. You live in this house, human being, and it's beautiful. You make it what you wish. Lovely artwork is on the walls. It's elegant. It's soft. It's where you may have an altar. It may be where you meditate. It's you. It's beautiful. It's where you sleep and where you eat. But at the center of this house, that's always been hidden from you, the core is a room. And in that room is the real human being, the smart one, the innate. And what you do is to live all around the innate. And in that center room, you might say, well, there's got to be some doors into the center of that area. There are. And you start using them. But they don't open outward. You can't pull them towards you. They have to be opened by the smart body within. And a few of them aren't doors at all. They're little holes in the wall. One of them is called kinesiology. You can find certain things out by poking a stick through the hole. And if the stick moves a certain way, you know certain things. All of that intelligence, balance, wisdom of the ages is in that room, and you're poking it with a stick. I want to tell you something. There are big doors to that room that will open, and I want to give you the labels of the doors, because the label of the door will tell you exactly why they're not opening. Let's go to the door called worry. You intellectualize things. You get a shell of worry going in the human body. Your innate will never give you intuition because it blocks it. Worry blocks intuition. Worry blocks intuition. Go to another door. It's called anxiety. It's a relative of worry. Anxiety blocks intuition. Go to another door. Fear. Fear blocks intuition. Do you want to know why the animals can be born on the field and up and running with the herd in hours? You want to know why? They don't have those things. They don't intellectualize. They don't have worry and anxiety. The fear they have is only related to survival. In other words, if an animal had any kind of smart innate, and it does for itself, it's there when it's born, and yours is missing. Because you're so smart, you learn quickly what to worry about, what to be guilty about, and all of the blockades that keep that beautiful, inside, smart body, innate, captured and trapped. Think about this. The innate is connected to the higher self, to the pineal. It knows so much. It has all of your akash. It has all of the wisdom. It's you. It's the core you. It's there. Every single human has it. And you got to poke it with a stick. I want to present the solutions to opening the doors that will let innate get back to you through intuition. Increasing your intuition tenfold so you start understanding what intuition is telling you, where you can expect it, stand by, breathe while it talks to you. Understand it's a power and not a fleeting experience that you wondered what you heard. I want you to take out your eraser and erase the words on the doors. And I want you to smile while you erase worry and anxiety and fear. And suddenly the doors have no labels at all, and you will feel them suddenly start to be open from the inside. The innate is realizing there's no more blockade. And you will start to be at peace. It is the peaceful human being that has the greatest intuition of all. It is the human who understands who they are, so they don't have to worry, that they understand there is the Creator inside, whatever that means to you. You're part of the system. You belong here. You're not an accident. You start to understand that and feel at peace with it, even smiling with it. And here it comes. The intuition you've been asking for. Turn right, turn left, do this, do that. This is bad for you. This is good for you. This is interrupting you. Change your attitude, change your food, change your path, change your family. That is the intuition that you have prayed for, that every human being wants to hear, the smart body that is connected to all that is. You came in with it. Did you ever wonder why humans don't have the instinctual power that animals do? I just gave you the answer. Too much intellect. Too many things to figure out, to worry about, to analyze. The example, we might have given it 50 times so far. When you leave the room, you'll go to your car. You'll enter the car and start the engine, and you'll drive away. But let me tell you, if this was an example of what you do with your own body, you'd get in your car and you'd have to read the manual of how the engine worked before you stepped on the gas. You want to intellectualize every single motion of the pistons involved. You want to know the pressure ratios and the fluid mechanics of the transmission. And that's what you do with your own lives. You intellectualize yourselves to the degree that innate is trapped. Innate is your best friend. Innate wants to be part of this new age. Dear ones, children are going to be born with greater intuitive power. And that is why they are going to upset the apple cart in the systems, even more than they are now. For that intuition will create wiser decisions than when they were here last. But the old soul, you can do it while you're here. How many of you will drop the box of belief that says you can't? You have to hang on to this. You have to analyze this. You have to know about this. Instead of relaxing, taking a deep breath, and letting those doors fly open. That's what's coming. There'll be different success rates. Some of you will feel it and understand that it works, and then it won't, because you keep shutting the doors. There's something new to worry about. In other words, this is something you're going to learn. It's a process of peace. Dear ones, this is magnificent information for an evolving human race. Magnificent to know that the next time around you won't have to work so hard, the intuition will be there. But also while you're here, it's available. These are solutions for you. You deserve them. It's time. No accident that you're here, and it's going to solve some of the problems you came in with. And that is the message of the day. Let the innate start to be that which you trust more than anything else. That which is connected to your heart, to your pineal, to your brain, in a balanced way that knows the one soul, you. Go from this place differently than you came, in love. And so it is.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. It's a beautiful time. And if I told you that I know who is here, would you really understand that? So many times you have heard me say, I know who is in the chair, I know who is listening. There are no secrets from God. I am from the great central source. I am a piece of the whole, like you are. Because I've never been a human being, I do not have the biases that you do of corporealness or 3D-ness. But I have the love for you based upon the work that you're doing. Now, before we even begin, I'm going to alert the listener to something that those in the chairs already know. That my partner had a difficult time getting here today. Now, there is a saying that says, there are no accidents. The saying is a metaphysical development of the belief in synchronicity and co-creation, all having purpose. Sometimes when challenge happens, as it often does in duality, you might criticize it as being inappropriate or wrong, or even suffering. But there are no accidents. And so, my partner has said to me 3 times today, why? Why did he miss his flight? Why did he have to take a 2-hour bus to an airport he had never been to and get on a plane to a city he had never visited to be picked up and drive 2 more hours to be 6 hours late to a meeting? He's never missed a meeting. Not on this continent, and he didn't miss this one. But in the process of getting here, he asked why. If there are things to be learned, what are they? And why should he experience this and drag all of those in the room with him? So that this is now a night meeting and it's almost 11 p.m. I'll give you the answer. It's a metaphor and a lesson. It's not for him. It's for all of you. And I'm going to revisit this because it is the theme of this channel. The theme you've heard before. Things are not always as they seem. Here is the metaphor, and it is for the day, it is for the time on this planet, it is for many of you to see and understand. All of you in the room held a ticket for this event. All of you in the room, when you purchased the ticket, felt you knew when things were going to happen. Because of the linearity of how you live your life and the clock and what you expect, because of the protocol of what meetings are like, you saw yourself in advance here at a certain time during the day and leaving when it was over. You scheduled your time appropriately when you would leave, the drive time to home, all of that. And then suddenly it changed. How many of you were tempted to say, because it was not as expected, I'm not going? In this room, very few. But that's not the way it is in life. The start of this meeting happened after the time the other one was supposed to end. It wasn't just late, dear ones. It was over. And then it began. How many of you hold a ticket for something that you have been asking for a long time? You paid your dues, dear ones. You got it in your hand. And then it didn't happen. I'm talking to a lot of you listening to me now, and both present and not present in this room. And how do you feel about it when the things have not transpired as you thought they should? In fact, it's gone beyond being late. It looks like they're not going to happen. The healing that has been promised to you, the associations, the business, the reawakening. There are so many. I know who you are. And in linearity, you are disappointed. The things around you are not unfolding as you thought they would, as you were expected they would, all your life perhaps. You come to this point and there's a change. And you're sitting there by yourself holding the ticket. And you don't know why it's happened. And here's what I want to tell you for this instance. I want you to notice what this metaphor was today. You were asked to wait. And it didn't happen, and it didn't happen. You were asked to trust that it would, and it didn't happen. And then way after the fact, when it was even supposed to be over, there was still the chance it wouldn't happen. And then it did. For those in the room, in this tiny little metaphor, the entire meeting has now happened and you are at the end of it. And you can look backwards and you can say to yourself, I'm glad I didn't go home. You can say, I'm glad I waited through it. I had the ticket and I got what I came for. I want to make a statement to you that God loves you enough to honor the ticket. Maybe not in a time frame that you like or that you expect, but you wouldn't have the ticket if it weren't supposed to happen.
Do not despair. These things are not always what you expect. Can you go the whole route? Can you wait even after the meeting was over to have what you expected? I'm going to get back to that. I want to review a little bit of history and fill in the cracks of the profundities of this shift on the planet that are happening. As I said last night, I have arrived in 1989, triggered by 1987 harmonic convergence. There's so much more than that. You began to change early, and we saw it. The harmonic convergence was a result of profound potential. When I came in, I gave you many predictions. Almost all of them have now resulted in manifestation. But they weren't prophecy. And I want you to understand the difference. You have today's technology which allows you to see storms coming 1,000 miles away. You can prepare a week in advance for something that may hit you. And you'll be ready. If somebody were to do that 200 years ago, without the instruments, and say a storm is coming in a week, and then it did, they would be put on a pedestal. They would have shamanic abilities. They would be a holy person who could predict. So what was the difference between a shaman and a meteorologist? And the answer is that the meteorologist could see it coming and tell about the potentials from a distance. In 1987, that's what happened. We could see it coming. And in 89, when I came in and began the channeling, telling you the shift is at hand, the battle is at hand, light versus dark will be what you face from now for a few years. You will have no Armageddon. The magnetic grid will shift and change. These were not prophecies. They were potentials based on a long range that we could see. We saw how humanity was shifting and changing in ways you could never see independently. For we had a picture of billions of souls all at once. I want you to understand that because of what I'm going to tell you next. We still have these potentials. We can still see what's coming based upon the same principles that allowed us to give you the first prophecies we gave you, which were potentials. We wrote about the Indigo Children because they were forerunners. Before the shift occurred, humanity started to change. The DNA actually within these children was different than yours. And it was different not in a chemical way, but in a quantum way. You're not going to see it in the microscope, dear ones. But you can see it in the actions and the consciousness that's represented. This was not a prophecy. We saw it coming based upon the potentials of human consciousness. Now, the Indigo Children, they represented a slightly changed human DNA that we told you was quantum. based upon the magnetic grid shift, which is also quantum, and a consciousness shift of the planet. Someday you will see that human consciousness has physics and it is quantum as well. All of this to say one thing: they relate to one another, and we saw it coming. And it was, and it did. Isn't it interesting that more than 10 years before a potential shift on the planet, that the kids started to change anyway? Before December 21st, the middle of the precession of the equinoxes, way before it, the beginning of the shift represented in the children of the planet began anyway. I want you to pay attention to this, because this is the way it works. There is an anticipation factor. It has begun already. There are those human beings whose DNA is working above 33%, and you're going to recognize them and see them clearly. And some of them will take the form of children geniuses, and there's going to be far too many for coincidence. It's not a prediction, dear ones. It's a potential. One of the attributes of an increased DNA functionality is increased wisdom, increased intelligence, and the ability to see system resolution faster. Some of the Indigo children already have that ability. Some of you are starting to receive it without having to come in again. That's what I want to talk to you about. What do you think calibration and recalibration is really about? Come on. Is that to make you feel better? How do you feel? Because it's not done, and you know it's not done. There are gifts being given to you right now, before the battle of dark and light has even actually begun. We are changing your DNA because you've asked for it, because you passed this marker. And the result, dear ones, is that corporally you are uncomfortable. This is all coming back. Did you hear me? How many of you lost your joy to live? Don't despair. The ones not in this room, necessarily the ones listening, don't despair. Because that joy is going to come back. How many of you just have had a bad day and remember it and went into perhaps a minor depression only to have it all come back later, and in retrospect you said, wow, I'm glad I didn't make any decisions when I was depressed. Well, I want you to think about that, because you need to hear that right now. This is not the time for some of you to be making decisions. Not only is it coming back, it's coming back and doubling. And we've said that before. Your gifts are being increased because your DNA is going to work far more than 33. You know what 44 is going to be? Long before the Tibetans are going to tell you, I'll tell you. I'll give you a hint. 4 is indeed a Gaia number, and that is something to look at. Is there perhaps a link to Gaia that you haven't seen before? Let me ask you a question. Why are the cetaceans in the Gaia group? That's just a little hint. What is 4 and 4 together? Manifestation. What is it that you might manifest when you get to 44? I will tell you that. Peace on earth. That is the potential. That's not the storm coming. That's the sun coming out. I've never told you that before, did I? See, things are not always as they seem. Things clear. And I can reveal things that perhaps I couldn't reveal last week because the potentials are that much grander today than they were last week. You got a battle in front of you. And we talked about it last night. And the battle is of dark and light, and it's profound, and you're starting to see it on the planet. Now you see the faces, now you've given a name. Now you know how to fight it. Or do you? Or do you? My partner has mentioned to the crowds many times that it is time for good news on broadcast. That it has taken hold on what you have called the internet before. And that various videos go viral that are heartwarming and beautiful. Going viral, my partner says, means tens of millions of people see them over and over and tell their friends. They're heartwarming. They make you feel good. Stories of courage and heroicness, children doing things, the rescue of animals, animals talking to humans, all manner of things. We told you that it's time for this to hit mainstream television. I give you a prediction. The one who decides to fund this for the first time will have the same kind of fame that the one did who decided to start something called Google or something called Facebook. Paradigms which had never been seen on the planet, and others told them nobody could do it, nobody would be interested, and it wouldn't work. And today you see it. Not only did it work, it has become a paradigm. The one who decides to fund the new Good News Network will go down in history as changing the planet. The one who had the insight and the vision to know how new humans are thinking and make a commercial endeavor about it. Make no mistake, I am not telling you that there is supposed to be a television channel that is New Age or that has Kryon. Hardly. Just let it be like the internet. Let it show the clips and talk about the stories and bring in the people and discuss it. And it will attract tens of millions of people away from the news, away from the horror. And the first people to see that this is going to be working are the advertisers. That's why it's going to work. This is the challenge. The first one to have the courage to fund this, endure the jabs of ridicule and laughter as they move the paradigm of the planet, will be famous. There's someone listening right now, and they're saying something, and I want to repeat it. Now, if somebody's listening now, I don't mean in the room. This is a hard concept for you, isn't it? That there's somebody in your future listening to this, and I know what they're going to say. Now, that is not prophecy, because I know who they are. And they will say, Kryon, this is ignorance and innocence, naivety. You've got this vast army building that is evil, that's given itself a name, that thinks nothing of murder on a grand scale. And you're going to fight it with videos of cute animals. That's not going to work, they'll say.
And here's what I'm going to tell you. Oh, yes, it is. You don't know what I know. Things are not always as you think they're going to be or as they seem, because you don't know about the benevolence factor. You don't know how light can spread. When humans start thinking a certain way and how it catches on and almost becomes contagious, and what that does to other humans, what the broadcast of these things worldwide can do to regular humanity. It's not just what you think in 3D. Let me tell you how it might work. Now listen. You have an enemy in front of you. Do you want to know how to win this battle? Do you want to know how to slay that enemy? Don't kill him. Do not take life. Don't become them. Let's get smart. Cut off their funding. And you say that's impossible. There are too many with too much money who will fund them. Not if the population of the planet objects. They won't. The part of the population that's looking at the channel with cute animals. The part of the population that respects life and loves one another and sees the potential for a peaceful earth and what it might mean. What it might mean to the Middle East. To finally solve, maybe it'll take a generation, but to solve that ancient hatred. Cut off their funding. It's not going to be that hard because the funding has to come from somewhere. And that somewhere doesn't just sprout from the ground, dear ones. It has to be approved. It has to pass through banks. It has to buy things in order for that darkness to exist and fight. And I'm telling you, that's the source. Common sense will tell you that's the source. Now, I've just presented something I've never said before. The benevolence factor is real. It's an amplification of the light in human consciousness. It is infectious. For the new human will gravitate toward peaceful things, not toward drama. Slowly, you will see certain kinds of television programs reduce their population, their popularity. The advertisers will see it too. And they won't want to fund anymore programs that show people arguing for fun. Watch this. I want you to see something that is not a prediction, but a potential. Now I want to get back to the ticket. In 1987, you might say humanity purchased a ticket for a meeting. And the meeting would have a name. The New Jerusalem. And some of you know what I'm talking about. The city on the hill in peace. As goes Israel, goes the earth. And that is the focus. And that is the ticket that you have. Peace. And you've waited, and you've waited, and you've waited, and you've waited. And you were almost there, you thought. And suddenly it got worse. Not that it just get worse, it got funded. They can't win, dear ones, because you got a ticket. How long is it worth waiting for? And what are you going to do?
Are you just going to hold it in your hand? Are you going to suffer through it? Are you going to be a victim wondering when it's going to happen? Or are you going to hold it up high and say, we deserve this, and it's coming. Let's go. Let's figure out how to defeat the darkness. We'll start with yourselves, becoming more gentle to one another, practicing on a micro level what the macro consciousness of the planet will have to learn. How long will it take? How long will you wait? The next time you're born, yes, when you reincarnate, if this earth is not yet in peace, I'm going to tell you esoterically, metaphorically, metaphysically, when you are born, you'll be holding a ticket. You will come in with this attribute. This is what you're going to want as a child. This is going to be your passion, and everything you see around you, if it doesn't agree with this, you're going to fight it. And you're going to fight it with that which you know works. Integrity, honesty, gentleness, compassion, action. It's infectious. That's the factor nobody expects, because it's not in 3D. It's not a prophecy. It's a fact. It's coming. And we see it. You've got the tickets. Don't put them away. Don't tear them up. Don't be discouraged. Hang in there. Because things are not always as they seem. I know your name. And I'm proud of you. And so it is.